Iran says the Strait is open as Trump says the war will soon be over. It was a big day. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The president says the Iran war could end this weekend as it appears there has been tremendous progress in just the last 24 hours. You watched it today. Oil plummeted. The stock market jumped quite high. The president telling Axios he expects a deal in the next day or two. Multiple outlets reporting the president feeling very optimistic in media phone calls today. Trump out west tonight saying this at a Turning Point event in Phoenix just a little bit ago.
Will remain in full force and effect as it pertains to Iran until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete and fully signed. This process should go very quickly, and that most of the points are already negotiated and agreed to. You'll be very happy. The USA will get all nuclear dust. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. Iran, with the help of the USA, has removed or is removing all of the sea mines. And most importantly, it never agreed, and you'll understand, they will never have a nuclear weapon.
So, you heard him there. He said no money will exchange hands. And that was a big thing because earlier today, Axios had a scoop claiming that the Trump administration was considering unlocking $20 billion in frozen Iranian funds in return for Iran giving up its stockpile of enriched uranium, everything it's made to this point. It was a plan that, to many, if that Axios piece was true, reeked of the Obama nuclear deal that, of course, the president has long mocked for 15 years, 10 years. Trump hater Adam Kinzinger laughing hysterically on X, saying, good luck defending this pallets full of cash. Sam Stein from the Bulwark saying you can't ignore that these are all variations of the JCPOA, the Obama nuclear deal, adjusted for cash level and dulling of nuclear ambitions, and Trump blew that up only to end up back there. A House Democrat put it like this.
This sounds very familiar, right? This was part of the JCPOA framework, which Trump criticized and pulled us out of more than 7 years ago. And since then, things have gotten worse for us. And now talking about essentially the framework of the JCPOA program, again, now is telling.
So that's a lot of trash talking, right? And we've seen it all day today, especially for an Axios scoop that now appears likely is inaccurate because the president said no money's going to change hands. He just said it about 90 minutes ago. The president told Bloomberg today Iran will suspend its entire nuclear program and not receive any frozen funds. But let's just take a moment here for a second and pretend that we will unfreeze $20 billion of Iran's money, as that scoop said, in exchange for some kind of real deal on Iran, a deal that actually ends the Iranian threat to the world and stops their funding of terrorism once and for all. The audacity of these people to compare what that would have been to Obama's Iran nuclear deal is priceless. Obama gave the Iranian regime about 7 times that amount of money. And the Obama administration got basically nothing in return for that. They just got a small delay, and they gave Iran loads of money. Iran manhandled the Obama regime, cheated the deal. Our verification on the JCPOA deal was almost non-existent. Oversight required a substantial heads up for the regime, which allowed their scientists to conceal everything that they were doing. Take a listen to some of the criticisms of that deal at the time.
It leaves Iran with an expansive nuclear infrastructure intact, doesn't even close down one Iranian nuclear facility, not one.
Iran gets enormous economic relief. It gets the ability to expand its military. It will use some of that capability to continue and expand its terrorist activities. The president actually acknowledged that this afternoon. And a nuclear program, which today is illegal under UN resolutions, becomes legal. we get an agreement of very questionable value where we have very limited ability to have confidence in the world's capability to monitor their nuclear program.
And there you have it right there. Add to that Iran took all of that Obama money, more than $100 billion, and used it to fund terrorism, including attacks that killed our own troops. Yes, Barack Obama paid Iran to kill our people. Whatever deal the president makes with Iran, and we could see that here in the coming days, rest assured that the regime will be a whipped puppy. If there is some kind of freeing up of frozen funds that Iran will use to rebuild its country, it certainly will not be used for terrorism or a clandestine nuclear program that's hidden from our overseers. And let us remind you that the president says there will be no freeing up of money at all. Nothing like that will happen. That they will capitulate simply based on the fact that if they don't, we will continue this until we starve them out of power and a revolution, and they're all killed. So this is how you really run an operation like this. We're seeing how American strength actually makes a difference. You know, running a country the way it ought to be run makes a bit of a difference. The JCPOA, Iran's deal, was signed by naive politicians who were desperate for any kind of a deal that they could sell as a foreign policy win. That's what that was. This is not the same. This is not even close. The JCPOA was negotiated by an Obama State Department that was infiltrated by Iranian loyalists. The Obama administration, as we know, was loaded with disloyalty to the country that it served. That's why Obama's 8 years were so toxic. It took this country down a road it had never been down before. And our country has kind of hated itself ever since, or at least a large part of the Democrat Party. We saw the same under Joe Biden and people like his Iran envoy, Robert Malley, who was secretly working for the benefit of the terrorist Iran regime. This is how it is now. When Democrats have power, you're going to find some sympathies for some of the worst regimes in the world. This is the new American left, and you can trust that they're going to be in any Democrat regime that comes into power in this country. No matter the deal that President Trump comes up with on Iran, no matter what it looks like, you can trust that it'll actually make our country and the world safer. Because if you know anything about Trump and his ego, he is not going to sign a deal that will embarrass him. He'll bomb this country for the next 3 years before he'll do that. And he'll blockade their ports for the next 3 years before he'll do that. Whatever this deal looks like, it'll be an actual check on Iran that radically changes the regime, if not completely ends it. And it will be nothing like the Obama nuclear deal. Blaine Holt, retired Brigadier General, back with us tonight. Miad Maleki, also with us, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Miad played a central role in crafting our sanctions campaigns against the Iranian regime, and it's good to have you both with me again. And Miad, I just want to start with this. What do you think a deal with Iran that could come as soon as this weekend is going to look like?
Well, I mean, we still don't have all the details yet, right? I mean, but based on what President Trump is signaling, it appears that we're going to maintain our significant sanctions that we have in place right now, sanctions that have been really boosted and enforced very well since President Trump took office. We're going to maintain those sanctions in place. Remember, those sanctions were fully lifted as a part of the JCPOA, and those sanctions are in place. And their nuclear program has been significantly degraded. The uranium enrichment capacity has been almost fully removed. I mean, this is not the Iran that we negotiated with during the JCPOA. This is a regime that is facing a collapsing economy. I would argue the economy has collapsed already if you look at the numbers. And it's not going to get some kind of a sanctions relief from a deal that we're hearing President Trump is negotiating right now.
Right. Blaine, the same question to you. What do you think a potential deal would look like, and your reaction to those that are trying to say that we did all of this just to go back to the JCPOA?
Yeah, you have it spot on. It's ridiculous to say that the president would go anywhere near anything that Obama was doing to imperil our own security. And we are winning this war. We have won this war. We now have strangleholds on all money coming from everywhere. And it's not just the shipping and the blockades. Secretary Bessent, since late February, has nailed 7 banks that were involved in the Shikami network with money laundering, and Miad's been a part of that. So all of this is tracking in the right direction. Ooh, $20 billion. What do we do with that? Well, as we off-ramp the IRGC, and they are going to come out of this thing, the incentives will be there to give them money as we start to see a free Iranian people take back their country. And if they want those dollars, then they have to show us that they're going to be coming into the world as a free nation that will not host terrorists in any way, shape, or form, and will help them along the way. And if they need a few bombs on a besieged headquarters, we're going to be right there with them.
If you're saying, so you're talking about the IRGC, and elaborate on that a little bit for me if you could, Blaine, because I lost you there for a second. Just fill me in, because that was interesting.
So the mullahs are nearly done completely, and the mullahs and the IRGC leaders are at each other's throats because they keep disappearing. And where they're at now is they're only spitting out demands in front of the president, not for our benefit, but for the 90 million Iranians that they're trying to convince they're still in control of this country. They're not. They're going to be shredded in a coming revolution. And if we're going to use that $20 billion, incentivize the revolutionaries. You can buy your own weapons with your own money. We'll help you get those weapons.
That's interesting. Miad, your reaction to that?
That's a very nuanced point. So it's don't listen to the fluff, the propaganda that is coming out of Iran. What we're hearing from the regime is really different than the reality on the ground. Again, as I said, in January, they had to kill their way out of demonstration that they were facing. Over 40,000 protesters, innocent Iranians, they slaughtered in a matter of 48 hours to buy themselves some time. Those protests were in reaction to Iran's economy pre-war. Now we're coming out of the war, that in addition to the mullahs, to the regime's own miscalculation to close down the Strait of Hormuz, which affected their own economy more than any other economies in the region or globally, because they depend on the Strait more than any other economies in the world. They're facing an economy that is way worse than where they were in January. And I have a strong doubts that if they face a gasoline shortage that they're going to face very soon, they're going to be able to survive much longer.
Yeah, that was what Blaine, everything changed this week, right? I mean, when they pulled this blockade, which has been just tremendously successful, all of a sudden it just felt like Iran was, they realized we had finally kind of hit the right nerve. And it was, we've talked about how if they can't, with the oil, right? If they're producing oil, if they can't get it out, if they don't have anywhere to store it, if they shut down those rigs, they're creating a huge problem for themselves. If we shut down their operation for a matter of a couple of weeks, they get into a real pickle. And that changed everything, didn't it?
They're in that pickle, and their allies are orphaning them. The Chinese Communist Party is now deciding, ooh, better side with President Trump here and work a better deal, because these guys are going away. The other big ally that has gone away is the one that Scott Bessent has been talking about all week, Lloyd's of London. That monopoly is shattered now because they're not going to control what comes and goes in the Straits, and they don't get to just pick winners and losers. But that's huge because they have been central to some of this laundering that's been going on, that's been keeping these guys in business. So it's not just the military piece. Bessent has been equal to all the other generals and admirals that have enabled President Trump's leverage in this, and I think they're closing in. And I think it's just going to present opportunities that we have not seen in 47 years.
Miad, real quick before I let you go, what do you think the end of this looks like, and what does Iran look like in 6 months if this ends in the next few days?
Well, I mean, I hope, and I'm very optimistic that if there is an agreement, this regime is not going to get some kind of a sanctions relief or access to cash to really buy itself some time. I think they're economically, politically, militarily, they're done. It's a matter of time when Iran is going to take the government back. Now, one quick point, I served in the U.S. Air Force. I have colleagues and friends over at U.S. Central Command in Tampa. Again, put the fluff away. This was a huge win for folks in our uniform, our planners who planned this for years. And this was a very successful campaign. But unfortunately, due to some domestic political issues, they're not getting the praise that they really deserve.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's something else. We're going to see how this develops this weekend, and we'll see what comes maybe by next week. Blaine Holt, Miad Maleki, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, so why is temporary status seemingly endless in this country? Congressman Kevin Kiley voted to shield hundreds of thousands of Haitians from deportation yesterday. He joins us next to defend that vote. Plus, coming up later in News from the Left, Elmo gets Islamified.
Salam alaikum, everybody.
Wake Up America Weekend.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Louder.
And I'm Kenzie Beach.
It's a Wake Up Weekend with Kyle and Kenzie.
We're here to help kickstart your weekend.
Grab your coffee and join us at 7 a.m. only on Newsmax.
Little by little, age-related macular degeneration tries to take away your vision. You're not the type to sit back and do nothing, so now's the time to take action and make a plan with your doctor that includes PreserVision. It contains the clinically proven formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. PreserVision is backed by over 20 years of clinical studies, and it's right here in the palm of your hand.
You spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Don't let AMD take that away.
It's your vision. Take action. Choose PreserVision.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical. But Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
An impressive and decisive mandate about the need to extend temporary protected status for our Haitian neighbors, 360,000 Haitian nationals that call this country home, who contribute to civic life, to culture, to our workforce, and to our economy.
Ayanna Pressley there, ecstatic after her bill to give de facto amnesty, really, to 350+ thousand Haitians passed the House yesterday. Temporary status for Haitians has been extended once again. It has been 16 years since that massive earthquake decimated Port-au-Prince. I was actually there on the ground a couple days after that earthquake hit. Pressley had 10 Republicans to help her pass this through the House, the usual suspects, Bacon, Lawler, Malliotakis, Salazar. Others, though, included Kevin Kiley, who's a former Republican turned independent, who still caucuses with Republicans, has been a guest on this show a number of times. Republican Congressman Brandon Gill on the other side of this vote, with a lot of the other Republicans slamming what we did yesterday in the House.
There's roughly 350,000 Haitians covered under temporary protective status in the United States. Of those, an estimated 91% entered this country illegally. 69% came in and estimated under the Biden administration. In other words, what this bill does is codify open borders of the previous administration that the American people overwhelmingly rejected the last election.
So with that, we look at this. At this point, it appears that the bill is going to die in the Senate. So let's leave that there for a second. But let's talk about how it even passed in the House for a moment. Congressman Kevin Kiley is with us now, and good to have you back on. I'll just start with why you voted for this bill, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. As always, good to be with you. So, there is no doubt that the TPP system is totally, our TPS system is totally broken. It's a total mess. It's never temporary. And Biden made it into a total disaster by paroling in, some 200,000 plus folks from Haiti, where he actually invited them to fly in, then paroled them in with a stroke of a wand, and then gave them TPS status on top of that. It's totally reckless. Totally irresponsible. And so I certainly understand why people want that to be undone. So yeah, we could revoke TPS status right now, but that's not going to cause them to go. I mean, you know that, Rob. They're not going to go back. For one thing, there's a decent chance they'd be kidnapped or raped or murdered if they do go back. So then you say, well, okay, we can deport them. Well, for one thing, this is going to be tied up in court perhaps for years more. But even if we tried to do that, there's just no way we could deport them in any significant number. Biden brought in too many. There's 350,000 now. So the way I see it, if you simply revoke TPS status in one fell swoop, all you've done is create 350,000 new illegal immigrants overnight. And so that's problematic on a number of levels. Number one, they're going to be even more of a drain on our public welfare system because now they don't have the ability to work. But even more importantly, once they've made that decision that they're going to stay without authorization, then there's basically no chance of ever getting them to return home. So if the goal here is to get as many of them back to their home country as possible, then we need a process.
We have. I mean, this is a huge amount of people that are in this country, and as Brandon Gill said, 70% of them have come in illegally under Joe Biden. 65% of these people are on welfare in our country, and so many of them came through South America where they were last, ripped up their papers when they came in, and walked in illegally, claiming that, and that means they're not asylum seekers, by the way, that they're they've been in a third country and they're just shopping around for the best deal, which is the United States. You're worried that if we cannot deport these people back to Haiti. You say that's not, we can't do that because logistically, or you're worried about what happens to them when they get back to their home country?
Well, it's both. I mean, they're not going to go voluntarily because they, fear what's going to happen if they return. But if we wanted to undertake a massive deportation program for them, it'd be a very small percentage that you'd actually be able to deport. I mean, 350,000, that's the total number of deportations that maybe you get in a whole year. So your point is totally accurate when you talk about the number who are on public welfare, as far as I know. But that number is going to go up a lot more if they lose the ability to work. And so, again, what I think people are tired of in this country is... Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
My point is this, I mean, if we allow this to stay, we're sending a hell of a message to the rest of the world, to get in here any way that you can. My other point is this, I mean, Haiti has been a terrible country for decades. It didn't start with this earthquake. It was a terrible country the day before that earthquake hit. It's continued on to be a terrible country. Most of the world lives in a rather pitiful state. Billions of people in this world do. Why is it that these 350,000 people deserve our good grace and can come in here and be on our dole? I mean, if that's going to be our mentality, why don't we just adopt the world?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that this shows why the TPS system is so broken and needs to be dramatically overhauled. And you're right, the way that Joe Biden did it made no sense at all. Because actually, most of the people, when we talk about those who came in illegally, they didn't come over the border. They actually were invited by the Biden administration, and they came on aircraft, they had sponsors, and then once they came, they had this promise, okay, you're going to suddenly be given legal status. So Joe Biden created this mess, and I think that people are tired of politicians who sort of try to make it look like they're doing something as opposed to actually doing something. So you revoke TPS now, that doesn't mean that these 350,000 people aren't going to be here anymore. I think it actually makes it more likely that more of them are going to be here for the long term. Whereas if you set up a process that is realistic and that makes sense and that does account for conditions on the ground over there in Haiti, then you probably in the long term get a better resolution and less of a drain, by the way, on our public welfare system.
I'll say I didn't like the vote, but you make it make sense, and what you do more than anything is expose just how ridiculous the system is in this country, our immigration system, and what we've done with temporary protected status, 16 years. How long have Somalians been here? Since the 90s. They've had this status.
Oh, yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just an outrage.
We appreciate you. Never temporary.
We appreciate you coming on. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on and explaining your decision there, Congressman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up here after the break, RFK Jr. battles screaming Democrats on Capitol Hill, revealing how many illegals were kicked off of taxpayer-funded health care. That's up next with Jillian Michaels and former CDC Director Robert Redfield.
They won't have their health insurance again.
They're almost all illegal immigrants.
All across the nation, people can't stop talking about Carl Higbie and Frontline for the big news they need to know. Watch Carl Higbie, Frontline, weeknights.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit, total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
IRS. 3 letters that strike fear into everyone, and for good reason. The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth. And being in debt to the IRS can have serious consequences. Oftentimes it begins with the IRS sending you a collection letter, but then escalates. And before you know it, you're having your paychecks garnished, your bank account seized, even your home or business could be at risk.
My problem was I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I was trying to take on the IRS by myself. I have 5 children, I'm trying to take care of my kids, and it was a lot of stress.
I owed the IRS over $10,000. They told me the possibilities of garnishing my wages to resolve this debt that I owed them.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. Well, there was nothing I could do about it. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
These stories are all too common. But thankfully, there's Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 most trusted tax resolution firm. Optima's experts have helped thousands of people with stories just like these resolve their tax debt.
I owe $15,000. I only had to pay $3,500, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything. It was easy, like 1, 2, 3.
Since I've settled everything with the IRS, with Optima Tax help, I'm going to be able to succeed instead of just worry.
They sent the paperwork in for the debt to be cleared, the liens to be taken off. Now I'm a happy camper now. If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call.
So don't wait. Today you have options. Tomorrow you might not. Optima's tax professionals are standing by, ready to help you now.
For a free consultation, call 800-375-1215. That's 800-375-1215.
Optima Tax Relief.
1.4 million people who have lost their health insurance just this last year from dropping off of Obamacare.
They're almost all illegal immigrants.
I find that very, very sad. It should be very easy for you to apologize if that's not, in fact, what you
Those are
meant.
crocodile tears. If you want just a sound bite that you can come in here, you can get that, and you did it. But if you actually want to solve the problem, call me.
That's something else. Our Health Secretary Kennedy testifying before Congress on Capitol Hill earlier, battling screaming Democrats, as he often does, furious he's changing the conversation surrounding health in this country. Kennedy actually working to fix a very sick country instead of ignoring most of our issues, as we typically see, in order to remain politically correct. Kennedy touching a lot of third rails, as we all know, exploding autism rates and vaccine connections potentially, questioning the food pyramid, how we eat, antagonizing big ag and big food in a country that has gotten very fat and very sick over the years. He does this facing tremendous headwinds from pretty much everywhere, including inside his own health department. The media mostly mocks Kennedy as well. Everybody mocks this man. But isn't it interesting to see these same people that have mocked him for so long now raising questions that he has been raising for years? This week we watched Katie Couric go on an expletive-filled rant over the cancer rates in young people. Take a listen.
There is something going on in our environment. It's not just obesity or a sedentary lifestyle. You know, it's a confluence of things that include ultra-processed food, maybe microplastic, forever chemicals, overprescription of antibiotics. I don't know what is happening, but something is going on. And there are 17 cancers. 17 cancers are increasing among people under 50. So what the is going on?
Oh, she used the F word too, such rage. Sounds like she wants a change agent perhaps in our health department. Somebody to maybe flip the script and find out what's really happening to all of us. Well, that's the guy that she's been mocking for years, Katie Couric. Dr. Robert Redfield, the former CDC director, joins us now, along with Jillian Michaels, host of the Keeping It Real podcast. To you both, good to see you. Jillian, it's funny to hear these people. They want answers on something like this. It might be answers that Katie Couric doesn't want to hear, though.
Well, I mean, you said it yourself. It's the exact same thing that Kennedy has been sounding off on for years. And it is a confluence of factors. It's the chemicals in our food, the chemicals in our water, the chemicals in our air. And he's trying to stop people from getting sick. He's focused on prevention, not just treatment. And they've been crucifying him for it. The irony is actually infuriating.
It is. Dr. Redfield, you know, as a common sense person from the CDC, your reaction to that?
Well, I agree. I think Kennedy is going to be one of the most consequential health secretaries we've ever had. Okay. And I think he's really trying to focus on, the real issues. Clearly, unfortunately, these cancers are increasing. It's hard to believe that in people under the age of 50 now, the most common cause of mortality from cancer is colon cancer. It was something we never worried about in people that were that long. So, whether it's, processed food, whether it's, microplastics, whether it's the environment, whether it's dyes, whether it's toxins, I don't really know. But it's clear that we're having a significant increase in cancer in young people in the last 10 years. And, I think Kennedy's going to, try to help us get at that, particularly by focusing on one of the obvious potential causes, which is just processed food.
Yeah. I wanted to show this just because it got so much attention. This is Rosa DeLauro. It's one of the most interesting people on the other side of the aisle. She had a real big rant against Kennedy for promoting raw milk, saying that it comes with serious health hazards because it's unpasteurized. Take a look at this.
Raw milk, unpasteurized milk, can harbor dangerous germs that can pose serious health risks to you and your family. You are the head of the Health and Human Services. If raw milk has the ability to put 9 people into the hospital, is there not some moral responsibility or compunction to say, don't drink raw milk? Don't do that. It can cause you serious harm to your health. If I were the head of HHS, I would, by God, say, don't take raw milk.
We should point out, Jillian, that Kennedy has not changed the federal rules regarding raw milk whatsoever. So your reaction?
It's regulated by the state, which he points out to her does not fall under his jurisdiction. And it just goes to show you that these people have no idea what they're talking about, but no concern about engaging in this kind of political theater for their corporate donors. I'm embarrassed for her.
It happens a lot with Congress, doesn't it? I got to leave it there. It's a tight show. Jillian Michaels, Dr. Robert Redfield, good to have you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Here after the break. Next, we look into this. Good to see you. This insane story of the now 11 missing or dead scientists. Next.
Hopefully, I don't know, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, but some of them were very important people.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
He's breathing. Okay. Go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
As Americans, we're fair and logical. 83% of us favor requiring a photo ID to vote. In fact, most of the civilized world requires it, but not us. We need to be able to trust that only eligible Americans are casting ballots. Democrats oppose voter ID for no coherent reason. Republicans favor it but haven't acted. What are they waiting for? Call your United States senators and tell them to pass the Save America Act today.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis? With fewer symptoms from moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, where would you go? Imagine being a million miles away. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. And for adults with active psoriatic arthritis, Tremfya goes beyond the skin. Less joint pain, stiffness, and swelling is possible. And Tremfya even reduced fatigue. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
Rob trusts Prevagen for his brain, and this is his story.
I'm Rob. I run a sanctuary for tigers in Southern California. I've been working with tigers for over 30 years. I found that I was taking various supplements for my physical health. I wanted to take something for my brain as well. After taking Prevagen, I felt more confident. I felt more in the moment. I stopped taking Prevagen for a while, and I noticed a difference. I got right back on it. Prevagen really works.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
Dale, you really need to get that colon cancer screening. Yeah,
it's been forever.
Dale, we can do it with just a blood test. Shield.
Shield is for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk for colon cancer. Ask your doctor about FDA-approved Shield.
Stop. Check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
All right, welcome back. A series of mysterious deaths and disappearances of scientists and government officials has begun captivating this country. Everybody wondering what on earth is going on with this. 11 in total, each reportedly had access to classified information linked to perhaps extraterrestrial activity, aerospace technology, defense, but they all were big deals in their area, and they're all in that science tech world. Former Air Force Major General William Neil McGaslin vanished from his home back in February. The Army official once held senior roles in space research and acquisition, is said to have known about secret government programs that included information about unidentified anomalous phenomena. That's what they call UFOs now. McGaslin was the 11th case of death or missing person in the last few years with ties to UAP research. Carl Gromer, a California Institute of Technology astrophysicist known for his work on exoplanets and the discovery of water on distant worlds, was shot and killed February 16th. MIT physicist Nuno Lauriero was shot and killed back in December. NASA scientist Michael David Hicks died in July 2023. And Amy Eskridge, a 34-year-old researcher attempting to develop anti-gravity technology, died in 2022. These deaths and vanishings have prompted a White House probe, and the president actually spoke about that yesterday.
Based on what you've been briefed, what do you think is happening here, and do you think that this is connected or totally random?
Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half. I just left the meeting on that subject. So pretty serious stuff. But we're going to be hopefully, I don't know, coincidence, if you whatever you want to call it. But some of them were very important people, and we're going to look at it over the next short period.
All right, so Avi Loeb is our friend, a Harvard professor who comes on and talks. We talk a lot about space and UFOs, things like that. He joins us now. Avi, what do you make of this? What is your theory here as to what is happening?
I think these are points that we should not connect. People enjoy connecting the dots and coming up with some common denominator, but when I look at each and every case, they appear to be under very different circumstances, and many of those people were at the prime of their career a while ago, not just now. And you would expect an adversarial nation, if this had anything to do with it, to attack or do something to leaders of projects right now, people who are active right now that know some secrets. That's not the case with those examples. And I share the hope of President Trump that indeed it's random. I do believe that in particular, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, and the FBI can look into it and see if there is anything behind it. I would be very doubtful based on everything I know. In fact, the families of some of those people said that their death is unrelated to their job.
Yeah, I mean, I know at least one, maybe two of them were suicides, and it's the first thing I thought was that this was some other country that was trying to inhibit our ability to do research in some capacity. But you really think that this is just random? Because when you start hearing 10, 11 people. And I know it's a broad spectrum of science and technology and things like that, and it is. You're right. It's not like they were all researching, water on other planets or UFO activity or things like that. They all had, it was an array of different research that they were doing. But it is strange. I mean, it's strange enough that it's gotten a lot of people's attention. You think it's purely just random as we look at all these faces?
Yes, I think it's unlikely that these cases are related. It's unlikely that it's also related to an adversarial nation. Of course, the suspicion is that, there were nuclear scientists in Iran that were targeted, and therefore there might be some revenge related to that. But frankly, I'm not worried at all, and I'm working in these related areas. In fact, today I had a visit to my office at Harvard by Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who was also telling me that she was worried, and she wished me to stay safe. But I really am not concerned about it at all. And I do believe that science right now is very exciting, especially after the space exploration of the 50 years ago, where it was rejuvenated by the success of the Artemis II mission. And I think for the young people out there, becoming a scientist is a great career choice.
Yeah, don't be scared to go into science with all this. Avi Loeb, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so the president's blockade of all of the Iranian ports in the Persian Gulf seems to be working like a charm. That's the big news tonight. The president announcing a deal he thinks could come together in the next day or two on Iran, which would, of course, denuclearize Iran, as the Strait of Hormuz has now opened. And the ships are moving through because of that. Oil futures plummeting. Dick Morris has advised the president, and he joins us now. Dick, you say that we have complete control over the global oil markets. Talk about that.
Yes. The world produces about 100 million barrels of oil every day. And the United States share of it was so huge that back in the 40s, 50s, in the last century, we set the oil price. We determined who got it and who didn't. In fact, a group of Texas voters called the Texas Railroad Commission elected people who would make that decision. Then in the 70s, our market share slipped and OPEC took over, and we lost that power. What Trump has now done is rebuild American oil production to a point where we now control 14% of the globe's oil production. And we're using that power now to tell Iran, look, we're going to stop you from selling any oil anywhere to anybody for the rest of your life unless you accept a deal that you can't nuclearize, and the stuff you've already got, you've got to sell to a third party that we approve of. And only under those circumstances will we let you back in the market. And Rail basically just has said, yes, we're going to do that. And it's a complete solution to this problem. It never could have happened without Donald Trump. And I don't know what else this guy is going to accomplish in his term, but this has to rank with Winston Churchill as one of the most incredible acts I've ever seen.
It's interesting because we were continuing to bomb, and for 4 or 5 weeks we had continued to bomb this kind of battered regime, and we couldn't get a capitulation. And then this week we pull this economic move, and all of a sudden we blockade all of these Iranian ports. And then you get to the point where they started talking about how if Iran in about a week or two, if they can't get this oil out, they're going to have to shut down their oil rigs. And they can't do that because then that kind of destroys them. That seemed to be the pressure point that was needed to bring us to this moment. You agree with that?
Yes, it's absolutely true. It took tremendous courage and foresight to do that. But don't obscure the larger point, which is that the United States has now restored order to global oil markets and said, we will decide you can sell to, under what circumstances and what price. And if you don't like it, we'll cut you out of the market entirely. And that act of power has been so incredibly formidable. Never could have imagined the president could do. And it's all because of fracking, because we now have increased our share of the world's oil production from 4% in 2008 to 14% now. And that gives us a leverage to enforce that. And we are the new OPEC.
That's so interesting. Dick Morris, good to see you. Thanks so much. Thank you. All right, 2/3 of the book sales for Gavin Newsom's new book came from his own PAC. How he's trying to buy himself some credibility in the literary world. Up next.
Allegiance Flag Supply believes American flags should be made in America.
Our symbol of freedom made outside our borders, that did not sit right.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American. Don't settle for flags made elsewhere.
Every flag is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality, made-in-America flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
A HomeServe story. Kim's home water line broke. She's panicking because she can't find a contractor. Pam's line broke too, but she's not worried because she has a plan from HomeServe. Kim settled for this guy. Pam had a qualified HomeServe contractor. Kim was shocked by her bill. Pam's plan paid for the cost of covered repairs. Choose HomeServe or chance it.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month. Call 1-833-731-7050 or visit homeserve.com.
Solid hardwood, vinyl, engineered hardwood, laminate. Get the look you love for less right now at Lumber Liquidators. Ash oak engineered hardwood, just $1.99 a square foot. Rigid vinyl plank in South Hickory, only $2.99 a square foot. And R.L. Colston oak solid hardwood, down to 99 cents a square foot. Before you buy anywhere else, let Lumber Liquidators help you get the look you love for less. Shop now through April 28 in stores or online at lumberliquidators.com.
Hi, I'm Elmer Heinrich here with my son Rocky. Now, our company sells Immuno 150, an incredible nutritional supplement that contains 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients.
That's right, Dad. Amino 150 has much more nutritional value than the average supplement because of the 150 ingredients that include the 70 minerals. The benefits are outstanding.
I suggest you try Amino 150 so you can experience the difference that 70 minerals can make in your life.
Going back, time now for news from the left. What on earth have they done with Sesame Street? Check out Elmo here with actor Rami Youssef celebrating Arab American Heritage Month.
Salam alaikum, everybody.
Elmo and I are here to wish all of you a happy Arab American Heritage Month.
Yeah, happy Arab American Heritage Month.
Thanks, Habibi.
Oh, wait a minute. What's Habibi?
Oh, it's an Arabic word for a special friend.
Really? Well, happy Arab American Heritage Month, Habibi. We love you.
Certainly are bending over backwards for this culture to make everybody feel quite comfortable. Are we as free to bring our culture to the Arab world? I wonder. I doubt. Next up, Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, not a bright guy by any measure, going on a very bizarre rant this week demanding reparations, slamming waiters' wages, and tying the restaurant industry to slavery. Take a listen.
I'm a black man in America calling for the reparations of black people. I'm taking a bold statement here. Challenge city council not to do stuff like take wages away from black and brown people, because that in and of itself has its vestiges tied to slavery.
What would this guy do if he didn't have that grift? What on earth would he talk about all day, every day, and how would he run that city if he couldn't talk about race? Next up, an insane story here shows how absurd sanctuary cities have become. The man on the screen, Roman Amatitla, facing murder and arson charges. This man allegedly set a 3-story building in Queens on fire. 4 people were killed, including a 3-year-old girl. Cops say Amatitla sat back and watched people try to escape the burning property as he sipped a beer nearby and also watched 4 people die inside of it. He also urinated in front of the building as it burned. But because of New York's sanctuary policies, the Department of Corrections is evidently refusing to turn him over to the feds after DHS requested information on this man. So you can burn a building down, sit there and sip a beer as people die, and the sanctuary city of New York will still protect you because you're somehow a priority in their world, and they wouldn't want you to be offended and not feel welcome in this city. So they're going to protect you with their sanctuary status. And finally, apparently nobody actually wants Gavin Newsom's new book, Young Man in a Hurry. Does that surprise you? But to save his ego, Newsom's Political Action Committee is buying up all of his books. New federal records revealed that Newsom's PAC has spent more than $1.5 million to buy and distribute copies of his book through the donation program. It's a clever trick they use, offering supporters who give any amount of money a copy of the book. So you can give $1 and you can get that book. And that evidently was the vast majority of the book sales for this ridiculous book. The money was by far the biggest expenditure for the governor's federal PAC in the first quarter of 2026. So the biggest thing he spent money on for his PAC as he runs for president is buying up copies of his own book. Nice, Gav. All right, Mamdani's wife here in New York really seems to hate the Jews. That's up next.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
So,
Here is a before of my stomach before Sonobello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sonobello.
I had some loose, wiggly skin, and it is no longer there thanks to Sonobello.
Our expert surgeons use micro laser technology to safely target and remove your diet-resistant fat and tighten loose skin permanently.
I wanted the results of the tummy tuck, but not the downtime. I had a 10 out of 10 experience.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform, and we're proud to be America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
In just one visit, Sonobello got rid of my love handles and my belly fat.
If you want that flat stomach, you go get that flat stomach.
Call Sonobello. Get in there for your free consultation. Do this for you.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Pump up the volume. Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
And finally tonight, New York City Socialist Mayor Zoran Mamdani telling CBS News today that he believes that socialism can flourish anywhere.
I think that this is a politics that can flourish anywhere because, frankly, there is only one majority in this country. That's the working class.
Yeah, it is something that can flourish anywhere because it's very easy to get people to buy into just free stuff. And it's something that we've been fighting for a very long time. Sold by these snake oil salesman like Zoran Mamdani with his big fake smile. Meanwhile, his wife actually is more aligned with how they really believe. This is the real Mamdani family. Trying to save face after a major scandal, Zoran's wife offering an apology for social media posts she made over a decade ago when she was a kid, where she used a racial and gay slur. Okay, fine, whatever. But Dowaji conveniently did not apologize for liking posts celebrating Hamas's October 7th terror attack when she was a full-grown adult. Isn't that interesting? Infinity's up next. We'll see you back here on Monday. Have a good weekend.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.